privatization, and you see the changes in their performance, in their productivity, and in their efficiency. Okay? As I said, in general, yes, they are more efficient, but this efficiency varies from sector to sector. We cannot generalize. Maybe in the manufacturing sector, maybe it will be okay. This statement is correct. In the manufacturing sector, if you look at the privatization in Mexico, privatization in Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on, where the massive amount of privatization took place, you will find that this statement is correct. But if you move to another sector, for example, the utility sector, then possibly the evidence will be quite mixed. Because within the utility sector, you have got sectors like telecommunication, you can have a sector like port, but they are quite different. The experience of the telecommunication cannot be replicated in port, because some countries may have just only one seaport, just only one, because it is geographical thing, right? And you can't construct another seaport in that country, okay? Because of the geographical reason. Now, if you privatize the telecommunication, then of course, because of this improvement in the technology, in almost all countries, there's a huge competition in telecommunication. Okay? You started with 1 or 2 companies, now there are 10, 15, or 20 companies operating in the telecommunication sector, in the mobile network, and providing the broadband services and any other services in the telecommunication sector. So there's a huge competition there. But you don't expect to have the similar amount of competition if you privatize a seaport, or in the railroad, or in any infrastructure, other infrastructure sector, okay, or electricity, water. So therefore, the experience of privatization will vary from sector to sector. Okay, so first level of comparison is what is happening in manufacturing as well as in the utility sector, and within the utility sector, you have got certain utility or the service-oriented sector which are more competitive than the others. And if it is more competitive, like as I said, telecommunication, you do not need any regulation. You do not need the government. But if you privatize like seaport or the water service, water supply, and so on, you need regulation. Because we know that by nature, of the rail network, by nature, you cannot ensure enough competition there. So the experience of telecommunication cannot be replicated in other utility sector. And therefore, the experience varied. And also, it was found that where there is a lack of competition, we found that these privatized firms, they do not have any incentive to invest or to improve the performance. If you privatize a seaport, and if there is only one seaport in the country, why should I invest? I know that whatever happens, since I bought it as a private agent, the country will have to utilize this seaport. They don't have any other alternative. Whether I invest in technology or whether I improve my performance, they will have to use this seaport. Okay? So therefore, less incentive to improve the performance there. So in that sense, it doesn't matter whether it is in the hands of the government or in the hands of the private sector. Maybe the efficiency gain will be very, very marginal in those activities. So therefore, the overall productivity increase and the efficiency, the changes in the efficiency can vary from industry to industry. Okay. Okay. And also, we know that when we rely on the market forces, then we find that the consumers may be very much concerned about the quality, because of the competition, you know that the price is the main thing. So if you're competing over price, then you may compromise with the quality to remain competitive price-wise. Okay? So therefore, the consumers may be quite concerned about the quality of the new product, because they reduce price, and maybe these new products will have will be of worse quality as well. And the consumers may not have enough information about the new entrants, and therefore these new entrants may find difficulties to enter into the market in the first place. Because if the consumers, they do not trust these new entrants because it is the private ones, and then they will not enter, they will not invest in the first place. That is another example of the missing market. Why the certain goods are needed but not produced? Because the consumers, they do not have trust. They do not have enough information about these firms. So the new entrants will not will not invest in these new industries. Okay, so that will create the missing market as well. And we found that the Washington Consensus, which has got 10 items, I have put here how many. The Washington Consensus has got the 10 prescriptions: the privatization, deregulation, trade liberalization, fiscal discipline, competitive exchange rate, interest rate liberalization. So it's there all in the textbook. Okay. So they have 10 items, 10 prescriptions. So these are the main ones. So all these things, the Washington Consensus failed in general to produce the desired results. Why? Because the main idea was that yes, if you privatize, if you liberalize, if you trade reform, liberalizing the interest rate, all sorts of liberalization, economic reform, then the economy will get the benefit of comparative advantage and they will grow at a faster rate, the inflation will be lower, all sorts of things. But we found that yes, to some extent it was successful. For example, in Latin America, the growth and the lower and the lower inflation was achieved, but there isn't any significant impact on the poverty and inequality. So, which means that in Latin America, the inflation was controlled and to some extent the economic growth improved, but it was at the cost of high poverty, or that poverty existed and the inequality has gone up in Latin American countries. Okay? So in that sense, we say that I think the policy design is important. It's not just about the Washington Consensus. We need to have consensus plus. So when the Washington Consensus failed to achieve the objective of efficiency and maximizing growth, then we say that one side should not fit all, and therefore we need to go beyond consensus, which is called the consensus plus. And there's a list of items in Todaro, what we mean by the consensus plus, where basically they acknowledge the role of the government. So it's not just state or government or either or, it's because it's mainly that we need to have some role of the government in a market or in many areas. Why? It's because the transition path will vary from country to country because the conditions are different. Okay? So therefore the consensus was not appropriate for all countries. You cannot have the same set of policies in all countries. And also we found that in many countries the privatization was needed, it was desirable, but it failed. It's because of political factors. Because the politicians, they put forward the political objective ahead of the economic objective. We know that the privatization is good, it is efficient, but they thought that there is a huge amount of political cost. Privatization will bring economic benefit, but it also brought political cost. And the costs were upfront and the benefits were in the long run. Okay? So they are more concerned about the cost tomorrow in terms of votes and so on, but they ignored the benefit of privatization, which can be accrued maybe in 10 years' time and so on. So because of this cost benefit upfront, political cost versus long-run economic benefits also hampered overall privatization process in the developing countries. So it's not all economic factors. Even if the economically we can prove privatization is good, still the political factors can influence the outcome of the privatization. It can slow down the overall process, privatization process.